See if it does anything. They're working. Tema, puedes poner un poquito en lumbre, fuego. Okay. Daima. Om Mangalam Gurudevaya Devye Matriksha Mangalam Bhakta Vrindevyo Sarvalokaya Mangalam Om Stapakaya Chadarmasya Sarva Dharma Sarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishna Mangalam Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Gurureva Param Brahman Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Ashmarachara Prayantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Sri Ganesha Sri Guru Om Daima. So last week it was raining, so we didn't. We can't. Okay, it was sprinkling enough to become wet, so we didn't do our program. We had just did a little reading. A few people who showed up that didn't get the message that so we read a little something. In the warm corner of the ashram. So we're continuing. It's a little smoke. We're continuing the readings from the description of the Kali Sahasranam, 1,000 names of Mother Kali. And we're finishing verse 16. After all this time, name by name, 16 verses so far. This is nice because we can keep the topic of meditation on Kali in so many different ways going a long time, which is nice. This morning, my morning tea, I was listening to a talk given, last Sunday's talk, I think, from the Vedanta Society in Washington, D.C., where I was a few weeks ago. Swami Bhajanananda, he will give a very nice talk on the holy name of God, right, on japa, things like that. One image really came in my mind, because these are holy names these are 1,000 such holy names of God. He was supposed to be talking about the nature of the mantra that the Guru gives us like this, you know. But before that, he was talking about so many important points of just a view of how the name of God is different than other names. We're told, Sri Ramakrishna says, we're told in many scriptures, the name of God is God himself, itself, herself. And he gave a beautiful, because usually a name is something that points to something. It signifies something, right? It's a sign that we use, right? So it points to something. So like a chair, the word chair is not a chair. It means chair, it points to the chair, right? He gave an example that's it's been in my mind the whole day. He said if you make an alphabet, if you make letters out of clay, right? And out of those letters made of clay, you write the word clay. Right, so the word clay points to clay, but they're made of clay. They themselves are clay. I thought that was the best example. An extremely good example, right, of how the name of God, it points to God. It does point, but it points to itself. It itself is made of that. So this is true of every name, and the 1,000 name hymns. These are beautiful. Each name points to some aspect. And then another example he gave here, I'm going to give a talk that he gave rather than my own independent research, but he's a brilliant thinker. But a beautiful, he quoted, put a little ghee, smoke down a little bit. He said, like, let's say, like tomorrow's Mother's Day, so it's a very nice example. So so your mother, she's your mother, so you call her mom, right? And the husband calls her something different. The niece calls something different. A sister calls her sister. A niece calls her auntie, right? Her auntie calls her niece, right? People at work call her by name. There's so many things. Each one of those is a different aspect. Mom, auntie, my mom Francisca, her by her name, like this. Paquita, not nickname, but like this. Jai Ma, Yukizi. So when you call mom, or you call Francis, or you call honey, or tia, auntie, like this, right? Actually, you're calling one aspect, right? And she's the aspect that comes. But the mom comes, but so does the auntie, so does the daughter, so does the aunt, right? So each one of these names that we're calling and meditating on, each one calls the full goddess. Although it's an aspect of the goddess, it actually calls the full goddess. Right, even if it may not, and when we call, if she comes by our call, all those aspects come. So I thought these 2 points stuck in my mind from his talk. So that shows you the benefit of these type of Facebook and live stream, because he gave a talk literally on the other side of he can't get farther, almost can't get farther away from us, the United States, than where he is. But it's very nice. We could think about these things. So the names the section of names we were discussing. These are describing her iconography. There's some names that describe her nature, her personality, her functions. This is describing her form, her position, her jewelry, her weaponry. These are that category of names. And I'll read the verse 16. Preta-deha karnapura preta-pani-su-mekala pretāsanā priya-pretā preta-bhūmi-kṛtā-layā. So we discussed the other one. These are we discussed this quite elaborately. The earrings made of corpses, right? Her a girdle made of the severed arms of corpses, right? These are very, very strange things to describe. And this series of names is dealing with corpses, right? Preta. And we mentioned preta has many meanings, but here preta simply means a dead body. Here's my corpse. But preta means ghost, preta means hungry spirit, preta means demon, preta means all kinds of things. Preta means somebody who's died. But here it's obvious, by use, preta means corpse, a dead body. But dead is not actually about dead bodies. Preta means anyway, we went a lot. It means actually everything is preta actually, and this series of names will show that actually one of the most distinct iconographic details when you look at Ma is that she seems to stand on a corpse, right? And she has severed heads and she has severed hands, right? So there's a lot of corpse symbolism. So corpse means many things. It also means corpse, but it doesn't only mean corpse. Corpse is a symbol for so many things we discussed last time. So the next name in the second half of verse 16 is we're on name 112. Pretāsanā. Om pretāsanāye namaha would be the mantra. We call to you who sits upon a corpse. Now that's a strange thing to say. Now there's many forms of God, many names of God, many ways of thinking, different forms of the deity, different forms of Kali. This is, and you see many posters, many hymns that describe her standing on Shiva or sitting on Shiva or standing on a corpse, or even in the Sahashranama she has many names, Pancha Brahma, pretāsanā, something like that. She sits on 5 corpses, the 5 Brahma corpses like this, right? There's names like that. So it's some distinct thing. So we have to understand, we don't want to get too, I can't say we don't want to go, we want to go very deep into these things, but we can't go very deep into it because these things on a tantric level, they're not meant to be described. The nature of tantra is not meant to be described openly, right? It's talked about amongst initiates, and not only amongst initiates, it's talked about to initiate to whom it would be of value, right? Just because something is in the scriptures or there's a practice doesn't mean it's meant for everybody, right? It's actually meant for almost nobody, And maybe even nobody, right? Right? Maybe there's nobody for some practices, some meditation, some mantras. But it is because we cannot avoid such images of Kali standing on a corpse, sitting on a corpse, where she sits in the cremation, she stands in the cremation ground, right, surrounded by jackals and howling. You know, her mantras say that their posters. If you want to buy a very sweet, beautiful picture of Kali, right, very beautiful, you know, bright blue with a shiny sword and like that stuff, but there'll be some dismembered arm on the floor, you know, the burning bodies in the background. You can't get around it. We have to think a little bit what it means. Right. Although we can't describe exactly what it means because it's not appropriate, but also it means so much. It means things that we may not have. I can give some description, and from the commentaries, from the yogis, from our own thinking about it. But most of these things, they're beyond our experiences, right? These are. We believe that these names came from the outpourings of. Ecstatic outpourings of rishis and sages who have had these images, these realizations. So we can only hint at what these things mean. So we'll give it our best shot carefully, trying not to overstep the bounds of propriety and the level of our own understanding, appropriateness. So pretāsanā, she who sits upon a corpse. So this is the most common thing. Either she stands, the most common image is she's standing on Shiva, right? Or, and in a little more tantric images, she's sitting on Shiva. Usually sitting on Shiva means in sexual union with Shiva, right? And so sometimes either you see one or the other, usually. But actually, more accurately, as per the Dhyan mantras, the mantras that are given in the tantras, describing these forms, is actually, there's a Shiva that's lying down, right? And then there's a Shiva on top of that Shiva, on which Ma is sitting or in union with, right? So there's actually two Shivas, right? And that's one thing. But there's actually other forms where there's piles of Shivas, right? All kinds of Shivas, right? So we have to understand a little bit some of the symbolism. When somebody asks, well, who is she standing on? Why is she mommy? Why is Kali standing on Shiva? You know, you give some simple answers. There's some general story how she stands on Shiva. Shiva lay down and she stepped on Shiva, and then the battle stopped. You know, we know these stories. These are very significant stories, and they have references in text and tradition. But then we can give a little philosophical description, is that and as a symbol of how Shiva and Shakti manifest, that Shiva represents in this story, in that image, is that all-pervading consciousness, that and blissful, you know, and white is that of absolute purity. He's not moving. He's the ground of being. In philosophy, we call it Brahman, like this, right? The ground, unmanifested, unmoving being. But that unmoving, unmanifested being, the ground of being, also has something that it manifests. The unmanifest seems to be, for all intended purposes, manifesting as this world of name and form. So we see her in temple images, not just standing on Shiva, but walking. One foot is usually forward, the right or left foot is forward. Has significance. As we go through the names, you has the right foot forward, you have the left foot forward. There's different details, right? That means that she's manifesting, and she manifests that one universal consciousness begins to manifest through vibration, through Om, represented by the 50 letters of the alphabet, represented by one of the meanings of her skulls or her severed heads, Akshamala, Vanamala Akshamala, it says, and that manifests as a world of duality. We talked about this last couple of weeks, or last couple of meetings, how the one manifests and the world of duality, but it's not duality. That means duality means the world of multiplicity, right? When we say pleasure and pain, that's duality. But that's just two extremes. In between, there's 1,000 other things. When we say night and day, that's two extremes, but there's 1,000 things in between night and day. So the world of duality means the world of multiplicity, the world of name and form, the world of manifestation of us, Yadevi Sarvabhuta, Yadevi, in all beings. She's manifested everything. So this is a very nice, simple, beautiful philosophical snap of the image of Kali standing on Shiva, or manifesting Shiva. And Ramakrishna talks like this, is that when Shiva and Shakti are Brahman and Shakti, or Shiva and Kali, like this, unmanifested and the manifested. And in non-dual schools of Vedanta, we tend to focus on the unmanifest as being the reality. The manifest is, because by certain definitions of reality, the manifest is not real. If your definition is that which doesn't change, right? So the manifest is changing, so we can just, if that's what you're looking for, if your definition of the real is that which doesn't change, the manifest is not real. It's temporary. If your definition of reality is the observer, not the observed, the manifest is observed, therefore it's not real. Right, so you can go, if your definition of of reality is a subtle, not the gross, then Shiva, the unmanifested, is subtle, and the manifested is gross, internal, external, however you want. If those are your definitions. So the other day, Swami Bhajanananda read from Katamrita, the idea of the jackfruit, the fruit, the full weight.
Oh, yeah.
Jackfruit,
The bell
right?
fruit.
The bell fruit, right? So the most important of the bell fruit is the flesh. That's what we eat, right? Right. So you say, what's like? And if you're shopping for bell, this type of fruit, you're looking for one has how much flesh is it going to have, right? But when it gets weighed, right, at the shop they're not gonna weigh the flesh. They're gonna weigh the skin and the seeds, because that's the full jackfruit. Right. So if it depends. So if your definition is only the unmanifested, only the unmoving, only the unchanging, only the subtle, only the subject, never the object, then this world is Maya. This world doesn't exist. Right. It's however it exists. It's not the reality. It's not unchanging reality. But Ramakrishna said it doesn't give the full weight. You're not getting the full picture. Right. Because the way it seems to be, for all intended purposes, for our experience, and even the experience of the great saints, right, is that the unmanifest also manifests, right? The ground of being has something, becomes all this, right? And that's a basic principle of Shaktism, of Tantra, is that it's also giving value and attention to the manifestation, the Shakti, not just the Shaktiman, but the Shakti, not just the consciousness, but the not only Purusha but Prakriti, I think this is ash, but I think it's seeds, right? I'm worried when I see ash moving like this, I get nervous with things flying in the air. So that's Shaktism gives preference. So as we're Shaktas, therefore this is a Kali temple, so we get where the whole focus is, all the bright lights are shining on Shiva, on Kali, right? Shiva, where's Shiva? She's underneath her feet. The images like that, we're giving emphasis. But but in Shaktism it also realizes that why is Shakti important? Because it's manifesting the ground of being. It's the manifestation of the Godhead. So much so that it's none different from the Godhead. You cannot separate Shiva and Shakti. Sri Ramakrishna said, like two sides of the same coin, right? You can't separate. You can be interested in only one side, but it has two sides, right? And we can think, it's this way. Heads you win, tails you lose, right? But they're the same coin. This is just an arbitrary focus, right? Or then he says, like milk in its whiteness, water in its wetness, fire and its power to burn. You can describe fire, you can define burning power, right? But you can't really. It's the same thing. Convenience we can do, and you can focus. I'm studying only fire, or the burning power of fire, not fire. That's what I'm focusing on. So that's a legitimate attempt, right? But these images and Tantra in general and Shakti Tantra in general is all giving due importance to the manifest, right? To the Devi, the one who, if Shiva represents the non-dual ground of being, Shakti Kali is the one dancing or manifesting, expressing. So this is one image, the most common image, a common description of Kali standing on Shiva. It's a simple philosophical, and it's a very bold. I think it's a very bold. We always think this is a very brave view of reality, because in many religions we have an all good God, and an all bad counter God, anti God, the devil, right, or some version of the devil, right, and so all that's good is controlled by one, all that's bad controlled by the other, right. This is seen actually that good and bad are just two extremes. They're not. Swami Bhajanananda always said they're not different in kind, but in quantity, not in kind, right? They're both the same thing. They're all Shiva manifested as the world of duality, or the world of multiplicity. So we see the good is divine and the bad is divine, right? Birth is divine, death is divine. Youth is divine, old age is divine. Success is divine, failure is divine. It's suffering, happiness is divine, suffering is divine, right? that doesn't mean we want suffering, doesn't mean we want to die, doesn't mean we want war, doesn't mean we want ill health, but it's part of the nature of the manifested change in universe, right? And there is a value also in seeing all that's changing in the world of multiplicity as divine. That means we're seeing the unchanging, right? That mean if you're seeing sickness is also divine, and death is also divine, right? And suffering is also divine. It means you're seeing the unchanging, the divine in all these things, right? So actually, the focus on Shakti is itself a very real focus on Shiva. It's actually the best way to focus on Shiva, right? We see Shiva in the non-dual reality in every aspect of its manifestation, dual manifestation. So that's one image of Shiva on Shakti, right? This actually, here she says she sits on a corpse, not stands on a corpse. So this is a slightly different image, right? Not much of a different image. It can be the same thing, right? And because we're in an adult setting here, and we don't overemphasize it, but actually by sitting on Shiva, she's in a sexual union with Shiva. Usually the image is seen like that. So that has some meaning. Partially is that Shiva is Shava, a corpse, right? It means it's without Shakti, Shiva is Shava. And that first line of, I forget the line, Sundar Lahari, right? That famous line, it says, without Shakti, Shiva cannot even stir, right? And even language is a play where you take the E out of Shiva, it becomes Shava. Even language, there's some play in like that, right? So Shava means corpse. So she is the one who gives life to Shiva. She is the one who manifests. Without that, Shiva can't manifest. Without Shakti, Shiva can't manifest, right? Without a vibration, if you have a still pond of water, unless there's a vibration, the water is not going to move, right? Without that vibration. So her in union with Shiva is part of the symbol of him waking up, him becoming enlivened, right, and bursting forth, right? The images are given a sexual image. So that's another. So the standing on Shiva and the sitting on Shiva is not going to be much of a difference in symbolism at that level of understanding, right? Then it becomes so in the one image even in Lalita Sahasranama in the Brahmana Purana, it describes like that she sits on a corpse. She sits on 5 corpses, right? And it's described, if you've seen, sometimes it's beautifully painted, a lot of beautiful images of Lalita Tripura Sundari. The 4 legs will be Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, and Isha, right? And then Sadashiva will be the couch, right? And so these are the 5, and then and then she sits on that couch of Sadashiva. So that's she's in union with Sadashiva, and on the 4 legs of the primary gods, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. Isha is another form of Shiva, and so is Sadashiva. Others say that Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Isha, Sadashiva, and then there's another Shiva that's described as her bed sheet. Right, there's so many descriptions like that. These are anthropomorphic descriptions and symbolic descriptions of her asana. So she's going to be in union with Shiva on 5 corpses, or she's in union on Shiva on 4 corpses, right? Or she's in union with Shiva on 1 corpse, or she's in union with Shiva who is a corpse. It depends on how it's painted, how it's described, right? Different texts will say it differently. It's going to be roughly the same thing. The 5 corpses, of course, usually we see them in the images. They look like there's Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva holding up the pillar, right? So they're corpses, but they've been brought alive, right? A dead body is brought alive. The difference between a live body and a dead body is what? Shakti, or soul, right? There's some soul that's giving life to something. So Brahma, Vishnu, not just Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, and Isha, but everything, right? Including Ambikananda and Rishi and Idi. Without Shakti, we'd be a dead. I mean, many people here probably have. I mean, we see dead bodies and animals dying and people eating like that. But if you've seen like a loved one, when a loved one has passed away, right? You see the difference between a live body and a dead body. There's some difference. In the beginning, when it's live, everybody gives so much attention, right? Every last little thing. Right, it's to give comfort, especially when but as soon as something happens, right, the prana leaves, Shakti leaves, the soul leaves, something that's animating, right, whether that leaves, then you start really crying, right, because now they're gone. Something has gone. And what do you have left? You have only a dead body, right? Some prana is gone, the living force is gone. right? And so the difference between a live body and a dead body, the body's still there. Almost nothing's different. By weight, it's the same. By chemical composure, it's the same, right? You can even get the heart. You can buy machines. You can keep the heart pumping, right? So it's not then keep the lungs moving. But you know, it's you're just opening and closing the lungs of a dead body. It's not. It's preta, right? But so. Like that, there's something within everybody. So there's something even within Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, right? And Indra and everybody. So that's that Shakti. You know, we call in the individual sense, we call it the individual soul, right? Jivatman. In the cosmic sense, we call it Paramatma, supreme soul, right? It's the same, just seen individually, or seen universally. Right, so she is that Shakti, the soul of the universe in this sense, right? Even of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Now, in the first images, Shiva's the consciousness and she's its manifestation. Here, she's the consciousness and the energy of consciousness, and Shiva, Brahma, and Vishnu are simply Shava. They're just a form. They're nothing. Without her, they cannot manifest. Not even that they cannot manifest. You say, without your soul, your body can't manifest. No, your body is never manifesting. Your soul's manifesting through the body, right? So even Brahma, so she's the Shakti, the life of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, right? This is the idea. And also another thing. These are those five. A long time ago we discussed a little bit about the pretāsanā, the Panch pretāsanā, as being the five functions of Ishvara. Right, that is creation, controlled by Brahma, sustenance or maintenance by Vishnu, destruction or dissolution by Rudra or Shiva. Then you have Isha and Sadashiva represent that the veiling power and the revealing power, or Maya and grace, right, liberating grace. Right, these are the five energies of Ishvara. When we think of the word Bhagavan who holds these six powers. Right, we know it's all beauty, all wealth, all power, like this, right? All renunciation, all knowledge. But Ishvara has a specific meaning also. It has these five powers. So by her sitting on all five powers and saying that they're her asana, they're not her asana of the corpses. That's saying that she's Ishvara. Ishvara means controller, right? Or the doer or controller, the master, the Lord, right? She's the lordship of the lords. She's the controlling power of the controllers, right? She's the Shakti of the Shavas, right? You know, she's our Shakti also. This is another meaning of her sitting on. So that's in Lalita Tripurasundi. It's given this image of Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. They're usually very nicely holding, some very nicely painted like that. But we mentioned last time that between Shiva and Lalita, they're the same goddess, but seen with different snap. Right, like the full moon and the new moon, we gave that example, right? The same moon, but very different, but not different at all. The difference is only from perspective. Same moon, right? So similarly, so just like the new moon, the dark, and the full moon's going to be different, it's going to feel different, and it's going to be experienced almost opposite. You can't get more opposite in moonlight from full moon and new moon. So you can't get more opposite in bhava and iconography, the Kali and Lalita Tripurasundari, Shodashi. So Kali in this, so she also stands on. So her are not little Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, right, in anthropomorphic form and all their jewelry and everything, holding up her seat, right. So here, sometimes you'll see. So here, Shiva's just a corpse, right, and sometimes even there are rare paintings we've collected whenever we find them, paintings where you have literally Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Isha, all like dead bodies stacked on each other. Right, and then she sits on those corpses. So hers is more because she exists in cremation ground. One of the names here is smaśana-vasina, right? Two names that were coming are both about cremation ground. The first name of this hymn is cremation, smaśana, right? So her image is going to be a little more. They're not symbolic. They're not giving that she sits on the five Brahmas. She literally fits on corpses, right? Sometimes piles of corpses. In a second, we'll have you read that beautiful. You have you have it. Different Dhyan mantras described like this. So another meaning. So yogis take it in so many different ways. Another thing of her sitting on a corpse in some images, like I said, that she's in union with Shiva on one form of Shiva is Mahakala, right? And then on top of that, below that, is another Shiva called Sada Shiva, right? This is a common image, and so there's many layers of understanding of that. Of Sada Shiva, universal consciousness. Mahakala is time, space, and causation, and then she manifests. I mean, there's all kinds of ways of understanding. People give it, but yogis, yogis, people like tantric yogis who are interested in who visualize the Kundalini and the chakras and that category of yoga, of tantric yoga. They have their own way of understanding. She's a tantric goddess, and it fits that type of yoga, right? Because usually we think of Kali at the base of the spine as in the unawakened being, in all of us, right? We all have that Shakti. Right, it's called Kula Kundalini, right? It's represented by this fire in the first verse. I think the first or second verse of Lita Sahasranam, Chidagnikunda Sambhuta, right? She exists, Sri Mata, that divine goddess, that divine mother. For Mother's Day, we have to think of her, that divine mother. Where is our divine mother? Sri Mata, Sri Maha. Who is she? She's the empress, Mahalini, and she sits on a lion throne. Right, her Shingasana means a throne. Where is she enthroned? Chidagnikunda Sambhuta. She exists in the fire pit of awareness. Chidagnikunda. So this is the fire pit of our awareness. This is the very base. Literally, you can think of it, the very base, the Shakti of our being, right? And there she does the work of the gods. Devyakara Samudita. She does the divine work, right? And so in us, it's by her Shakti, her radiating energy is giving us prana. The radiant energy of Kundalini, of sleeping Kundalini, the radiating energy is called prana, right? By that prana, we're breathing, we're moving, we're blinking, we're conscious, we're thinking, we're sleeping, all these type of things, right? Unawakened, right? In unawakened, since she's at the base of the spine, visualized like that, the radiating, the heat of this fire at the base of the spine is giving everything movement, right? Another way of thinking, right? And so in this image, where is Shiva? Shiva is in Mount Kailash, very far away, right? And Mount Kailash in the body is considered at the top of the spine. Mount Kailash is a combination of three hills. There's the Ida Pingala Shimna, the end, and then the final peak, the very peak of Mount Kailash is the abode of Shiva. And so Shiva is seen meditating in he's visualized in the 1,000-petal lotus of the head. And Kali is seen not in Muladhara, but underneath Muladhara. Muladhara is the earth element, underneath the earth element. Muladhara is birth element, means body consciousness, means worldly awareness. So she's underneath, covered by our body consciousness, and covered by our external worldly thinking, or covered by Muladhara, right? So we have to somehow, we can't say we have to be careful how we use the language. We're not trying to manipulate Devi, right? We're her children and her worshippers. We pray to her to come up. Jagratam, Jagoma, wake up, mother, right? We want her to come up, right, through not just through prana, but we clean the way through prana by purifying chakras, by purifying our emotions and our physical body, our emotional body, our mental body, our nervous system, through the practices of yoga. Make the way clean, and through our devotion, and through japa and meditation, devotion and puja and selfless service, all those practices, she comes up, she awakens, right, as our awareness becomes enlivened. And in the final stage, you can say, visualize, she becomes the top of the head in union with Shiva, right? She's now on top of Shiva, right? So this is a very interesting thing. So now Shiva is on top of the head, and she's in union with Shiva. Now, and Shiva, right? So we have this body, right? And then we have Shiva on the top of the head, and Kali as Kundalini in union with Shiva on top of him, right? So Shiva is in union with Shakti in union with Shiva on top of Shava, on top of the body. That's our body, right? So this image of Shiva, Kali in union with Shiva on top of Shava, is the picture of an awakened being, right? Of an awakened Kundalini, right? That she's now in union with Shiva, and this body becomes Shava, right? And so there's practices in the scarier edges of tantric and tantra where people go in the middle of the night and they find a dead body, and they put the dead body, and then they draw a yantra on that dead body, and they sit on that. This is pretāsanā or shavasana. Shavasana is not sitting there and watching your breath and withdrawing it and moving. This is nice. It's like a shavasana is you take a dead body and you sit on it. Right? Yeah, Ramakrishna told a funny story about this, or an illustrative story, right? And then puja is done, and with the idea that you get like so that may or may not be. That's something that in stories like that, and maybe have been practiced, right? Has its own place perhaps, but that's not real shavasana. Real shavasana is sitting on top of this body, right? When you're beyond body consciousness, when you're thinking of God beyond body, automatically you're sitting on a shav. So actually, when you sit, there's a mantra we use in Kali Puja. There's all kinds of mantras for the seat, right? We purify the asana, we purify the seat we sit on, right? Called Ashana Shuddhi, right? And there's Viniyoga mantra, and then Privitrari Taloka Devi Tamo, Mother Goddess Earth. You hold us all in your lap. You are held by Lord Vishnu. Protect us and purify this seat. We believe that we're praying to Mother Earth, and the story that she's held by Vishnu, and the whole story of Varaha avatar like this, right? But Mother Earth is fine. That's something that's our experience of it. But also, our asana is our little classic. We're sitting. This is my asana. This is your asana, right? So we also want that asana purified. But our real asana is Muladhara Chakra, right? We're sitting on our Muladhara, on our right. Get off your Muladhara and get to work, we do, using our own language, right? Right. We're sitting and so that seat that underneath says she holds that. When that's pure, she can come up, right? And there's a mantra, anyways, and there's another mantra. If it's we say Om Arhara Shakti Adi Bhyodama. We worship the power that sustains the seat, the sustaining power, right? Or Arhara Shakti Kamalasanaya Namaha. That sustaining power, which is Shakti, right? That holds up in the lotus seat. That again is Muladhara. It's not only this seat, but it's Muladhara, right? The lotus of the Muladhara, right? But then there's another mantra, Sadashiva Maha Preta-Padmasanaya Namaha. Then you get more, right? So we worship that power, right? And we worship Sadashiva, that Sadashiva, who's the great corpse in the lotus seat, right? So our lotus seat is this body, right? We should be sitting, when we sit for meditation, we go beyond the body, energetically imagined in Tantra as sitting on top of the head. Psychologically understood as beyond body awareness. That's also pretāsanā, right? Or shavasana, or shavasarana, right? So every time you sit, actually, and you can see, you imagine, it must be very difficult to do that type of sadhana. First, it's not easy to get a dead body. Legal problems nowadays. The logistics are very difficult, right? Right, and then you have to carry it into the forest somewhere. You imagine it's hard enough to carry your body, but to carry some other thing But actually, we do that. If you want to go to your meditation room, what do? You have to get up, carry your body into that room, slap it down, and then, isn't it? I mean, we're doing shavasana all the time. We're sitting on a corpse all the time, pretāsanā all the time. So the image of Kali is that fully realized example. So we're all actually, in that sense, very dangerous, scary tantrics. Every time we meditate and we forget our body or go beyond our body, right, or try to think of God and trying to unite the mind, and that union, that's shown as the union of Shiva and Shakti on top of that, right? That is in Tantra called parasambit. Right, sambit is the joy of that of union. Right, that union creates amrita. Right, parasambit. Anyway, sambit is considered and actually many things in many texts it says the fire is sambit, chidagni sambit. Right, is that everything is a symbol of that union. We have to think. So this is a way. Yogis want that union. Actually, you have a lick of ice cream. That's that's sambit also. You get some union and you get some joy, some bliss, some rasa, right? Some juice, right? So we want that highest bliss, right? The union of not just small unions of Shiva and Shakti, right? Of awareness and consciousness, or consciousness and form, or however you want to look, right? Through regular experience, through sense experiences. That itself gives some joy, but not fully satisfying the problem. We want bigger joy than ice cream can give, right? I know it's almost blasphemous to say such things, but there is such joy. I hear scriptures mention such things. The saints claim such things, right? but so we want that highest joy. So this is also imaged by this by the Shiva Ma. So it's so in the Kali Dhyanam, there's a long Dhyan mantra describes meditation mantra describes a form of the deity to be thought of in meditation during puja, and in the I think it's in Tantrasara by Krishnananda, Bengali collection of tantric verses. Nobody knows if he wrote it or if he is repeating it, which already collected them. We don't know. The first record of the Kali that we have inside this form that's described in this Dhyan mantra, as far as we know, the first time that image is described is in Tantrasara. Many of the images of the deities we worship common in Tantrasara. There's Tantrasara, Mantra Horini, there's a few texts that a lot of these things come from. So in Tantrasara it describes also, it says, let me find it here. Sorry. Shavarup Mahadevo Hridiyo Parisamstitam. Right? She stands upon Shavarup Mahadeva, that great Shiva, the great God Mahadeva, as in the form of a corpse. So this is her image, right? And then it further says, Maha Kalina Chasamam Viparitara Tarunam. Let me find it here. Viparita Rati. So Viparita Rati, this is Rati means that Rati is a name of, you have Kamadev and Rati. Kama is lust, or the Cupid, we would say. It's not Cupid, it's a cutie little thing that we have in the Western world, right? And in Shastra, Cupid is a stronger character, Kamadev or Madan, and like this, right? He's not cute. He's very handsome, but he's not cute. It's a different type of thing. He's very scary. And his wife is Rati. And so Rati means, here's the joy of sexual union. That's Rati. So Kama and Rati. And so Viparita means opposite. So it means sexual union, that's opposite. This means, sorry to be a little bit graphic, but this is the image we're describing and carefully. It means that Ma is on top, right? She's a superior position. And in modern culture and in ancient culture, women were not always treated in superior position, both in the sexual sense or in society's sense, right? They're controlled, held down by men, right? Here it's showing her supremacy. The fact that she's on top, sorry to use this, means that she's in the supreme position, right? This is the Shakti tradition, right? But also it has a deeper meaning, because usually Shiva's here and Shakti's down below in Muladhara, right? But here, the awakened condition, she's in the superior position. She's now fully on top, right? Shiva's down below and Shava's below that, right? One person described that, we think of usually who's in control is the demons are in control, not Shiva or Shakti, right? The demons are controlling our life. Every thought, every impulse, every desire, every sensation, every offense is controlling, takes control of our mind. And in many images, so you see Shiva, and there's a story describing that also, but you see, when you see the dancing Shiva, right, the Nataraj Shiva, she stands, I forget the name of that little demon, but he's short on this little dwarfy demon, right? There's a story where he was thrown and he stepped on that corpse. And he stepped on that demon, right? You see him glorious, the supreme consciousness, right? Defeated. Now, not the demons are not in control. He's shown supremacy. But now this is the extreme, this is another interpretation of an extreme feminist Shakta interpretation of the image, right? Even that supreme, all-pervading, ever-victorious dancing Shiva, right, that pushes everything down, that gets pushed down, and Shakti is on top, right? Either standing on top, like in the temple like that. No, not in the new image. This is Nataraj is one image. This is the next image, right, where Shakti is dancing. Because where is his power, right? His power to step on that Shiva, that comes up, and he gets pushed down. Right, you can see when in our little sense, our inner valor, our inner energy comes up and squashes like that. So this pretāsanā name or image is it's important. It's not what we've said is more than sufficient to describe like this, right? But it appears in the tantric literature, in the Devi literature, as it's in the Dhyan mantra. It says one who, like the end of that Dhyan mantra, the long Dhyan mantra, I'm not giving the full verse, but it says, he who, Mother Kali, the grantor of righteousness, enjoyment, wealth, and perfection, the four kama, artha, dharma, and moksha, right, should be meditate, dharma, kama, artha, evam samchittayet kalim. We should always meditate upon this form of Kali, described like that, including her standing and sitting on Shiva like this, right? And then we'll get dharma, kama, artha, moksha. We get the four fruits of life. So there's a result, right? So there's another text. There's many texts on Kali, but not many of them are easily understandable because of the images become so, with dead bodies and corpses, and and it becomes not easy to interpret, right? But there's one of the important texts is called Kapurari Stotram. Kapurari Stotram. Right, this is one of the main kind of foundational texts, but it's not a foundation. It's a text describing. It's in a tantra. I forget which tantra. Please forgive, but it's describing a particular mantra for her, and the sadhana of that mantra, and within that sadhana, what's the visualization of that mantra. So it says, I don't want to mess up that verse, but I'll just give the translation. I have it in Sanskrit, but I'm not going to mess it up. Close in the directions. Right, means close in the space, which means that she's Digambara, right, which means naked, right, the creator of the three worlds, three-eyed, the three-eyed, we will, and we have talked about the three eyes, Ada Pingala Shumna, all these type of things we give description, right, dwelling in the cremation ground, which we'll get to that shortly, seated upon the chest of a corpse, right, it's also the meditation, right, in sexual union with Mahakala. So this is the text of the chorus in Mahakala, right? Meditating thus upon you, O Mother, right? It says, if one who meditates, even a dullard becomes a poet, right? Dullard here means not just dullard. It's almost more. It's like what is somebody who can't speak? A mute, or somebody who can't think or can't speak, or somebody, but he can compose wonderful poetry. Now, this maybe if you really want to write poetry, you have to meditate upon this, right? Maybe it's that simple, right? This is the tantra. This is, if you want to become a poet, this is a meditation you do with this. You have to go into the cremation ground and meditate. But I think it means something more. It means that it says even, not only. I mean, there's many. It's like there's something happens, right? When you think of dullard composing poetry, or other language, that the lame climb mountains, right? That's a common thing to say, right? Means that something is awakened, right? That this is a symbol. This meditation is for the awakening of consciousness, awakening of awareness, awakening, spiritual awakening, enlivening, right? You can read. There's a beautiful hymn attributed to Adi Shankara called the Kalikastakam. 9 verses. It's 8 verses, no? 8, yeah. To Kali, right? It's a very Kalikastakam, right? Yeah, but you're thinking there's a few verses added. There's a Dhyan mantra. So the refrain is very beautiful. The refrain is very, very lovely. It says, what's the very last line of each line? So that what your what your sarupa is, what your nature is, even the gods don't know. Right. So it's like, what to speak, we don't know. We don't know what we're talking about. The being we're talking, we'll describe 1,000 verses. And this is not the only, there's 3 hymns that I know of 1,000 names of Kali. Right. And not all the names and they're not repeated names, a lot of them, right? And then you have all of her rupas and have 1,000 name hymns. It's like there's unlimited, and we can discuss, but still, we're not saying anything about her, right? It's like saying mommy's coming, but we don't know anything about our real mother, right? But speak of our divine, even our physical mother, we don't know nothing. Even if we know her name, we grew up with her, and she raised us like that. But 99% of her remains a mystery, actually. When you call her, she's there, right? What she is, even God doesn't know. The gods don't know. Maybe even God doesn't know the mystery of a person, right? What to speak of the mystery of the original, right? So it's a beautiful. But I wanted him just read. I think it's 3 verses. This describes a Dhyan mantra. And so similar thing. We can.
Want the Sanskrit also?
Yeah, you can chant it.
Galadraktamunda Valikantamala Mahangorarava Sudamstra Karala Vivastra smaśana-layā mukta-keshi Mahakala-kama Kula-kalikeyam Ujevamo-yugme Shiro-sing-dadhana Varam daksha-yugme Bhayam-vai-tataiva Sumadhya-pitunga Stana-bharanamra Lasadrakta-shrika Dvayasu-smitasya Shabadvandvakarna Vatamsa-sukeshi Lasad preta-bhūmi prayuktaika-kanji Shavakara-mancha Diruda Shiva-bish Chaturdikshu Shabda Yamana Bhireje.
Can you read translation?
Around her neck hangs a garland of severed heads dripping blood. She opens her mouth wide, giving a great dreadful sound and revealing her beautiful teeth. Naked, dwelling in the cremation ground with freely flowing hair, Kali is in sexual union with Mahakala. Her left hands hold sword and severed head. Her right hands grant boons and fearlessness. She is bent at the waist by the weight of her mountain-like breasts. The corners of her glistening blood-stained lips form a sweet smile. Her 2 earrings are corpses, her hair beautiful. The gleaming hands of demons tied together form her girdle. She eagerly ascends her throne of corpses and sits upon Shiva as the 4 directions fill with the sound of her jackals.
That's quite an image. That's before the verses. This is just the opening mantras, right? But also that a mountain of corpses. Right? Image is very wonderful. But also, you see, that is all. Well, we last 2-3 weeks, we described the gleaming hands. We described her long flowing hair. All these details are being described. This is exactly describing the nature of her Dhyan mantra. So, and we're told to meditate upon Dhyan mantra as her devotees. In this way, we have to means not just say the mantra and visualize the form. Meditate upon it means to think about it deeply, not just to visualize it, or wipe instance in front of a picture of it, right? Right, or chant the mantra describing it, but think about it. So this is part of the meditation. One who meditates upon this form, let us meditate. We're trying to meditate a little bit on this form.
It's interesting that the left side has all these
Yes.
stuff, and the right side is giving bones.
Yes. What's the 2 extremes?
Yeah,
and this is part of the left-handed, right-handed, Dakshinam. We'll unfold those as the names unfold, most likely. Description. Right, in the I'm spending a lot of time on one name, but this is the most common image, it's a very deep. In the this happened just today, right? Just like there's a wonderful artist. I don't remember his full name, but he goes by Art Argya online, right? Offering of art, right? He's an incredible tantric artist, modern artist of deities, tantric deities, with very good knowledge of Shastra, things like that. And a new painting he's put up. It's a beautiful painting of Lalita Tripura Sundari coming out of the fire. There's a whole story. Actually, in the story that Bandasura, Kama was burnt, right, by Shiva's 3rd eye, and then the result of that seems like a good idea. Get rid of lust, easy, but it backfires sometimes. You're too dramatic. So even worse, much worse, a demon much worse than a little bit of agitation and romance in the mind. Much worse than that, Seems really bad, but it's much worse than that. Right? It takes over the entire universe, right? And the gods not going to do, the rishis and gods go to the mountains and they do a fire sacrifice because none of them can beat Bandasura. So horrible. Banda means stop. When he woke up, the whole universe screamed stop. And that was the first time you see somebody, what you call, that's their name. The stop demon. Stop demon, very bad, right? And so they start chanting mantras into the fire, and out of the fire, Pit Chidagnikun, that's what that first mantra comes, is the Devi. So it's a description of that from a different text and from. But anyway, it's very, very beautiful, and it's and he wrote. I just saw this picture today. I got very excited. A new painting of him. I mean, always waiting for a new painting to come up. If you're on Facebook, look Art Argya, incredible, right? And very good writing. You've seen very beautiful Art Argya, right? You can look it up. So when she came up, she ordered the gods. So he writes, she ordered the gods to provide her with a throne. The 5 primary gods, Brahma, Vishnu, Rudra, Ishvara, and Sadashiva, respectfully presiding over creation, preservation, dissolution, withdrawal, and grace, produce themselves at the throne for her over which she sat as Pancha-Brahmasana. That's the name in the Sahasranama. Throne of 5 Brahmas, right? From her left of her body, she produced her consort Kameshwara, right? And paired with him, became in union with him. She ruled over the grand city of Sripuda on Mount Meru. Very nice. But actually, what she was wearing is interesting because in the Kali we usually see she's Digambara. What does she wear? She wears skulls and heads. She wears arms, separate arms. So she's not naked. She's not wearing normal things, right? Right. So Lalita in this usually she's described as wearing a beautiful silk sari, red and beautiful red. Here is described that she's wearing skin. Right, so she's wearing a skin bottom cloth, a skin upper cloth, and a necklace of skulls, right, like that. And so I was very surprised when he wrote and looking at the picture, trying to see how he showed it. The bottom cloth he's wearing is the skin of Lord Vishnu. She's wearing a blue cloth of Lord Vishnu's skin, right? So it's again corpse images, right? Yeah, and her upper cloth is the skin of Lord Brahma. Right, and her skulls are all the different heads of the different manifestations of Shiva. So that means once again, it's like, that's like, yeah, that's pretty good. That's like I thought the Panch Brahmasana was good, but this is beyond. The image is great, but she's so beautiful. He did a beautiful job, right? But showing and also I have paintings where Ma's what's the skull? She's the head, severed head. She's holding 3 head, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva's head. Right, not that they're demons, this is symbolic that she's controlling everything, but also she exists before them, and when they die, she's still there. Right, the Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva's gone. They're in the corpses, they're her cloth, but she's actually on their own. They couldn't do it. They lost control, right, because they didn't realize their own Shakti. Right, they're just dead body. This body, somebody, when you're vegetarian and vegan, like people challenge you for all kinds of stupid things, it's like, do you wear leather? Like no, I don't wear leather. Like, would Jesus wear leather? They give stupid things like this. Like our friend Shiram gave the best answer to me. Would Jesus wear leather shoes? Right, like we don't know that, right? So maybe his mom gave them to him. That's usually what happens. We feel bad and we wear them. It was a very good answer, right? But I forgot what my point was. I got carried away. Oh, I forget. Oh no. So but also somebody wanted like same question was there's the famous author in spiritual things Ekanatheshwaran, right? Oh, yeah. He says, I wear leather all the time, and people were really quite shocked because nobody's ever seen him wear leather, right? Right? He says, yes. Very nice, very nicely fitted, right? This glove, my shoes, right? My mother and my parents gave me this when I was very young, and it's lasted me all these years. It doesn't look as good now, it's getting older. Eventually we'll have to change this cloth, And then you see, it's like we give, in the Gita says, as one changes from old cloth to new cloth, one goes from body to body. Right? It shows that this is also this body, this is just a leather skin. We're wearing a leather jacket, right? It's like, so we don't need another extra leather jacket. One leather jacket's sufficient, right? So that's also the kind of that imagery. It's a very, very cool image. Smaśana-vasina. I lost my. Did I lose my page?
Kalipada just commented. So cool.
It is cool, Kalipada. You're right. It's totally cool. I switched pages here. Here, pretāsanā. So we described the iconography of this Kali on top of Shiva, or standing on top of Shiva, sitting on top of Shiva, or sitting on top of and like this, right? And ultimately, we can think of the main imagery is that of Purusha and Prakriti, right? Or Shiva and Shakti, Brahman and its power. We can talk like that stuff. Oh, it's very nice. In Arthur Avalon, John Woodruff?
Sir John.
Sir John Woodruff, in his book, he also describes he describes it also. He says about the Shiva's on Ma's on one Shiva on top of another Shiva. He says the upper figure of Shiva named Sakala, who is awake because he is associated with his power as efficient in material calls. His Shakti being now creative. He lies inert, for he is immutable. He is immutable being. He is white because he has consciousness and illumination, prakash. Under him is another male figure, darker in color, to represent colorlessness, vivarna, with eyes closed. This mysterious figure, Nishkala Shiva, is called Shava, or corpse. It illustrates the doctrine that Shiva without his power or Shakti can do or is, so far as manifest is concerned, nothing. He can do nothing and manifest nothing. So this is also trying to describe his attempt. We gave our legitimate attempt. So anyways, we're meant to think of this image, so that we can think of this image. Before we go on, you can go, the image inside here is this painting with the Dashmahabhijas painted by Haley Goswami. Also has the same form of Kali on top of Mahakala on top of Shava Shiva on the 1,000-petal lotus, right? So showing that he's on the 1,000-petal lotus.
Haley actually painted.
It's very likely 1,000 petals. I haven't counted, but I'm pretty sure it's 1,000 petals. That's his style, you know. His style. So that's name 112. Name 113, right? Is priya-pretā, right? She who is dear. Right, or beloved. Priya-pretā means that she's dear to them or they're dear to her, right? They love her or she loves them, right? And so, once again, if Preta could be Shiva, right? So she's the beloved of Shiva. Shiva is now seen as a corpse, and she's the beloved of Shiva, right? If Preta means Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Isha, and Ishvara, and Sadashiva, then she's beloved. She's the Shakti, the most dear. And also you can say, and Preta, if we're corpses, right, then what's our most dear? Nobody, of course, God should be our most dear thing. But also our consciousness, awareness that we're protecting this body. Why? Because we don't want the consciousness to leave. The problem is we think we're the body. We don't want to lose our consciousness. Mm-hmm. Right? We're actually consciousness, and giving up the body is probably not a big deal. Right? It's a weird thing. We actually, because we think we're the body, we don't want to die, right? But if we know we know awareness, then this body will change. Nothing happens, right? Srila Prabhupada in a wonderful interview with in one of these little books, first little book I had of his. It's called Path of Liberation or something like this. And there was a conversation with John Lennon. It's one of those. It was a bit of a preachy type of book, to get out a popular character. But there's one conversation where he's talking to somebody about reincarnation. He says, and the person says, "How do you know reincarnation exists? Right? You guys believe it? How do you know?" He says, I know, and you can also know. Right? Think carefully. He's using the verse in the Gita. Just as the body changes from youth, as the body changes from youth to old age, from childhood to youth to old age, similar to the time of death, one takes on another body. So we reincarnate in our own body. This body is constantly changing. You look at my picture of a little child, you look at my picture now, it's good. There's almost some DNA pattern is there, so you can see some bone structure, but there's a completely different. Personality is different. And even every cell is different, what they say, right? After 7-8 years, every cell. So but you can see, so I've reincarnated in this body. So I'm not this body. Right, but he said, yeah, but no, you can also think, just that you're a child. He kept repeating again and again, just as in your own body, you were a small child, now you're a young man, now you're an old man. So similarly, yes, but how do we know reincarnation exists? You can also know, think carefully, right? We're reincarnating now, right? But we don't realize, but we think we're the body, and then we think, oh, we say, oh, he's an old soul. His soul is very mature. We think the soul's changing. We think we're seeing from the wrong perspective, right? We're not seeing the soul doesn't change. Even Krishna then says it is not burnt by fire, it's not wet by water, not burnt by fire, it's not changed, immutable, unchangeable, eternal. Those verses are there, right? The soul doesn't change, the body changes. But we think we're the body. We think the body is stable, and the soul's changing, right? It's a very precarious position to be in, right? We're betting on the wrong horse for sure, losing horse for sure, right? right? So priya-pretā, right? Also, preta means ghost, right? Or bhūt, and so bhūt also has a symbol of spirit or ghost or element or being. Yadavi sarva bhuteshu, all beings, right? So it means all elements, all beings, all spirits, so she's dear to the whole thing. She's the essence of everything. She's the most dear. So you could say that she's what's dear in a bhūt, right? The difference between a live body and a dead body. When it's live, all wonderful treatment. Afterward, you call somebody to remove it. It's going to spread disease if you keep it around, right? Your love is not, you may, as symbolic, you may go to a grave or something like that, right? But actually now it becomes from all value to call somebody to, what are we going to do with a dead body? Right, so the thing that's dear, the priya in bhūt or in preta is she's the one. That's another way of thinking. Verse 1, what time is it now?
6:16.
16. We can finish one. Preta-bhūmi-kṛtā-layā. Preta-bhūmi, so preta means ghost or dead body, right? Or a dead body, we're using it like that. And bhūmi means land, the land of. So the place of, or the land means cremation ground, right? Preta-layā or kṛtā-layā or kṛtā-layā. Almost the same meaning, slight different meaning, right? Kṛtā-layā, one who dwells, one who takes his abode, right? Krita also means killed, or to finish or accomplished. So it's also a good symbol of a cremation ground, right? Or a dead body is something that's been killed, right? And so it's finished. It's like that. And alaya means house where you stay. Alaya means not dissolving. Laya means to dissolve, right? So that which doesn't change, right? Like it's all. Laya also just means house or residence. So it's a way of you can pull the words apart. We don't know what the original meaning is. At least I don't. Maybe somebody who is very expert at Sanskrit grammar could say it has to only mean this. Maybe it's that. I'm not that expert in anything, so I can't say it has to mean anything. I think it may mean this, right? Like yeah.
I think of dissolution.
Well, that's alaya means that which is not dissolved, which means a place where you stay, not where you leave. It's a way of saying, but like like we have our ashram, our guru's ashram, yoga, the place where you practice yoga. Laya means place or residence, right? So so how do you say? She who resides in the place where dead bodies live. Can't say live, but you know what I mean, where it exists, right? The place of dead bodies, which means that it's just a colorful way of saying a cremation ground, right? So she lives in the cremation ground. And so the next verse, I'm only going to do the first name of the next verse. I'll chant the next verse, but that the first name is the one that I want to. It connected. Smaśana-vasina punya punyada kula pandita punyalaya punyadeha punya shloka chapavini. So the first, the verse 115 is smaśana-vasina. So the first name of the Kali Sahasranama was Smaśana, and so here's Smaśana. So the two names mean almost the same thing, just saying it differently. Smaśana-vasina, she who lives or dwells in the cremation ground. Now, of course, part of that is that people go to cremation grounds to worship her. Right, she lives, so her sadhanas are done in cremation grounds, right? It's a common thing, right? Sri Ramakrishna himself did sadhana in cremation grounds in his youth. In Kanpur, there's a cremation ground under a giant mango tree or something big, I forget, but and he did much sadhana there in his youth, and he saw many places when he went to cremation grounds, that he saw Shiva and Kali doing their work there. He saw them dwelling in the cremation ground. So it's literally, you want to see Kali, you go to cremation ground. That's like simple meaning. Where does she live? In cremation ground. But she also exists everywhere. Yadavi sarva, in all beings, right? So that whole world is a cremation ground. Just like without her, every body is just a corpse. Without her, everything is just a cremation ground. Everything is dead or dying without her, right? She dwells. She's the one giving life to this world. But cremation ground also has some other symbolism. In that Kaparadi Stotram, right, Kapurari Stotram, there is a medieval commentator named Vimalananda Swami, and he gives an interpretation of what cremation ground means, what smaśana. Cremation ground means Brahman, right? Brahman as in the absolute Brahman, because in the absolute Brahman there is nothing, right? Everything, nothing exists anymore. There's no thing. right? And the cremation ground, everything is destroyed, right? All the things we hold most dear are destroyed. We watch them. Of course, and so in the cremation, what do? You take the thing you treated so well and gave so much attention to, you carry it, you put it on a pile of wood, and you light it on fire. Then you wait. It takes 2-3 hours. You have a cup of tea while it's burning, right, until it's done, right? Hopefully that didn't anybody join, you know. So that's a very and you see, so it's a very good place to learn renunciation. You see what's going to last. Nothing's going to last, right? Holy Mother said, this thing we treat so well, right? It becomes 2-3 pounds of ash. That this whole body just becomes ash, right? Shiva wears the ash of the world. That's true. When he realizes that, the whole world is burnt to ash, and he wears that ash on his body. Right, this is very deep. This is why ash is such an important thing. And you see this wood we're burning, right? This how much this tree that this wood. These are big chunks of old wood, right? Hardwood, you know, right? Slowly they're burning, right? So much life, so many years, so much experience, so much vitamins, so much air, so much experience like that. And now slowly the Shakti is being released. That's fire, right? And the external thing, when the Shakti is released, what's left is ash. So actually the reality of the wood is ash. It's just carbon and a few things like this, right? Everything else is being released through the energy transfer, as it's chemical transfer, however. I mean, I'm doing more symbolically, not scientifically or like this, or biologically. But what fire is, it's releasing the inherent energy in it, right? And what's left is going to be ash, right? So similarly with the body, when the soul leaves and everything is, and you speed up the process, what's going to be left is ash. You light it on fire to speed up the process. Even if you don't light, you put it in the corner, it will decompose and become the equivalent of ash, right? Ultimately, become just nothing, right? So similarly, in the cremation ground, one thinks this, one realizes this, and that's a perfect place to realize her, to see Shiva-Shakti behind everything, what's real in the changing world, right? But also, this world is smaśana, because everything's continuously dying. Everything is being burnt, right? There's not, we say, I mean, sometimes it's a little, people think we're a little negative to say, but it's said that when somebody is born, they begin to die, right? They're not born is just 1 second, right? Yay, right? Everybody claps and cigars are distributed. It's a boy, it's a girl, yeah. And then slowly, there's some growth, but the growth is just rushing to the point where you fall over on the other side, right, over the hill. You get to the end. That's when it starts, right, in the process of dying. So in a certain sense, even to live is to die. To live is actually, living means dying, actually, right? And so this whole world that we see is a cremation ground. Everything is dying, everything is being burnt. And what's left is going to be of everything. Even this, I sometimes think, there's that show we've mentioned before, it's like After Man or something, After Humans, right? It's on like the Discovery, or it's occasionally the History Channel breaks their discussion of aliens, ancient aliens or something. They sometimes do an interesting show, right? And I think it's just either that or it's one of those channels where it's like, imagine, let's look at Los Angeles, a great city, is one of the economic powers of the world, right? Or New York City or Washington, like that. And let's imagine, not just imagine, if it's going to happen, eventually people won't be there anymore, right? It may happen tomorrow, it may happen in 1,000 years, but people won't be there anymore. What will happen? So just imagine, they have a bunch of scientists describe it. Let's just say today, no more people. Remove people from like that. Slowly what will happen, things will begin to rust. Concrete, seeds will begin to break concrete, right? Slowly bridges will fall, right? Bridges are, so it's like slowly. So eventually it will all, the forest will retake it. Animals will come back in, right? God willing, maybe this will happen. A few of us are left, maybe, not me, hopefully, but human beings have some value. Maybe they'll have, a few will be left. That's what the scripture said. There'll be a few left at the end of the whole thing to repopulate the next yuga. But what will be, which means the glorious U.S. civilization, right? Economic power, political, military power of the world, right? Will be eventually a layer of colored sand, right, in a stone. Maybe future archaeologists will wonder what this is. What's the chemical structure of this, right? Like it all. I mean, everything is. Even our great civilizations will all become ash, the equivalent of ash. Jaima. smaśana-vasina, she who resides in the cremation fire, in the cremation ground. The final thing I want to say, and we're on the thing, is that also the cremation ground you have to encounter fear. Nothing scarier than, I mean, not everybody's scared of these things, but most people are a little scared of cemeteries and cremation grounds. And so we're told, go into the cremation ground in the middle of the night. Right? There's sadhanas like this. Even the Kapurada Sutta says it. It's interpreted cremation ground means Brahman, thinking of Brahman. What's the middle of the night mean? Midnight. That means between day and night, right? In between, that means Sushumna. In between Ida and Pingala. Right? So all these things have very deep meaning. We can go into cremation ground and meditate in the middle of the night. That maybe has its value. Right? But also, cremation ground is thinking of Brahman, thinking of the unchanging. And midnight is in the dear center of our being, Sushumna, not in Ida and Pingala. Very deep type of thing. But in that environment of going to cremation ground in the middle of the night, it's very scary. So you have to overcome fear. Right? We have to see. So that's one of the things, the hero's path, you have to overcome fear. That's one of the signs of the cremation. She exists in the scary, so you could say she exists in scary places, in scary moments, when we're losing what we think is ours, or is us. Right? This is also she who exists in the cremation ground. And cremation ground also means, by saying it's Brahman, means it's beyond thought. She exists beyond manifest awareness, beyond thinking. But even the gods don't understand her nature. Right? And also in the cremation ground, we are alone, ultimately. Right? We have connections and family and friends like this, but at death we're alone again. We come alone. There's many poetic statements that we come alone. We come with nothing. We leave with nothing. We come alone. We leave alone. Right? All these are the message of the cremation ground. Right? So it's also the message. But the problem is we don't think of the cremation. We manage not to think of death. It's a very interesting phenomenon. The one thing we have in common, the one thing everyone has in common, the one surefire thing, we don't think of it. So she exists in that thought, right, at that place. So anyways, it's a very bold perspective. And
Reminds me of a Kabir poem. It says, when I was born, I was crying, the world was laughing.
Yes.
Died.
Yeah, you should live in such a way.
I was laughing and the world was crying.
Yeah. Everybody cries and you laugh. Yeah, that's the idea. That should be. We should live, but every moment, every place, every moment we're dying, and every place is a cremation ground. We have to live this way, right? And see her she's smaśana-vasina. She's right here in the middle of the whole thing. She's awareness. She's a power. She's Shakti. See her in that. Anyway, so these are a few beautiful images. You wouldn't think beautiful of she who sits on a corpse, she who wears corpse earrings, she who has a corpse band of hands, she who like this. But actually, we think about it; they're very, very deep. And there's another thing: is maybe they're not deep at all. Maybe this is an ancient goddess worshipped by tribal people, and this is the way they worshipped her. Who knows why they meant it? Right? It could very easily be that, though. They worshipped her this way. This is an ancient goddess from Vindhya Mountains. This is almost African tribe in Adivasis in India. Right? Even now, you go farther enough, you go into Nagaland. They're headhunters. They're like this. That tradition, the government has no control there. It's a whole different tradition. They're not Hindus in the normal sense, but they're worshippers of the ancient goddess, goddess. Right? But whatever. Right? Now, thinking of these images, every generation modernizes and updates their meditation on her, right? How they worshipped her, we don't know. Maybe we know how, but why, what, anthropologists can guess. And now you can go and interview tribal people and things like that, try to get some, anthropologists will get some PhD grant in order to go do this type of research, right? But for generations, for hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years, right, regular devotees of the Divine Mother, right, who however the forms came, or however the images came, they're thinking, and they have what the original meaning is. We cannot know, but saints have thought of what this means. They've given us meanings, taken about this, and you see it's like, it means this, right? And somebody's spirit, according to one's spiritual maturity, you'll give meaning to something, where somebody else doesn't see any meaning in it, or So luckily we can come up we can look at Ma and come up with our own meanings of what it all means. What it means to us. It means something different to everybody. So that I'm not challenging what it means to me. I wouldn't say it, it's too private. What it means to you, I wouldn't ask, and I don't care. So I really don't care what most people think. That's a little secret about me. Somebody one time in Rishikesh told me, but I told him, please excuse me, I don't care what you think about anything. I told her like that. I don't mean to be rude, but the person was being very rude, telling me but I actually don't care what you think. I care what the saints think, right? Like I'm trying to adjust. I'm trying to clear my thinking. I don't care what the saints think, right? So we're presenting what the saints think. What's in the commentaries, what's in the yogic tradition, what our own gurus have said, what Ramakrishna and his disciples have said, right? What's in the Shastras and the commentaries on the Shastras. We're giving that type of stuff, right? Because right now you hear a lot of stuff, people saying all kinds of stuff about these very images, right? And maybe they're right. They had just as much as right, but they don't have authority yet. They don't have. They're people maybe of their own, maybe clever thinkers and independent thinkers, sincere people, but they don't have authority. They don't have the authority of tradition. They don't have authority of discipline, renunciation, practice, years of sadhana, being recognized by. There's something about authority also. Not authoritarianism, you know what I mean? But the difference between a student and a professor may have different views of something, and maybe the student's right, but given the two, we pay attention to what the professor thinks because he has more. Until we make eventually we'll become one great sadhu who came here. I will end with this point. Anubhava Krishna. That's Swami from he says his own guru sent him to school, right? And he sent him to school, and he said, "What's the difference between you and the professor?" Oh, there's a huge difference between my professor. He said, no, there's some years and some books, right? You'll also know. You do that study, and you'll be just like the professor. There's nothing right now. There's a huge difference, but the real difference is years of study, and years of experience and of research. Right, so we can also like that. Without that research, they may be right, but I'm not that. I don't run to hear what most of the time. As soon as people start talking, I have to admit a little bit. I almost have to shut my. I don't want this all unreal, undigested Vedanta, and even worse, undigested Tantra, put into my mind. Right, I'm interested in what the saints have said, what the gurus have said, what others, all the other sincere sadhaks have said. Right, so this is what we've trained carefully, because these are points that have to be described carefully, and in a private circle. But this is an open private circle, and it's being broadcast on Facebook, so it's not that private. So we have to be a little bit conscious and presenting only what has been said in traditional sources, knowing that even the gods don't know what her nature is. Right. So what are you going to say? We're going to say something. We have to say something. Right. This is our job. Yes, Swami.
Something on my brain that the Jivatma is the animating soul, and the Paramatma is that. I didn't mean to say as the animating soul of the world.
Yes.
That the world would be.
Yes.
Not even
Yeah. So it's the soul. But now philosophical. What's the difference between Jivatma and Paramatma? That's a complicated answer. Many people have given different answers. Is there a difference? What's the relationship between the individual soul or souls? That's another topic that will also come up as these names get developed, right? There's many views, right? But whatever it is, right?
I mean, it just
Shakti. Whether she has unlimited forms. See, in the Chandi, she says, "I have unlimited." She's all form, but then she also says, "Look, they're all coming into me. I'm the only one here."
yeah.
Right? That's a hint, right? She is the one behind many, so the many exist. We can't deny it, but. To say there's one behind the many is almost saying there's not many. There's only one appearing as many. But it gives value to the many. It doesn't dismiss it as unreal. It's the many are real. We're real.
Right.
But who are we? That's the question. So we'll find out. We'll next week or next 2 weeks we'll read a few more names of who are we and who is she. And Thakur said, if you know who she is and who you are, that's sufficient. Jai Thakur, Jai Ramakrishna, Jai Mahakali. Thank you for your kind attention. Om. Tik. I think it was about a month percolating. We kept canceling and postponing, so hit the stop or finish.